What if the reason you lost interest in your hobbies has nothing to do with laziness and everything to do with awakening? Think about that for a moment. When did you start feeling it? That quiet, uncomfortable shift. The things that once lit you up no longer spark anything. Activities that used to make hours feel like minutes now feel heavy, pointless, drained of meaning. And you keep asking yourself, what's wrong with me? What if nothing is wrong? What if you're just becoming someone new? You didn't lose interest. Interest outgrew who you used to be. There was a time when those hobbies felt like a lifeline. They gave you a sense of control, a place to channel your energy, a place to feel something, anything other than the constant pressure of being alive. They were your escape, your medicine, your proof that you could still feel passion in a world that demands numbness. But then something shifted inside you, quietly, invisibly. You started seeing through the illusion. You started waking up. Awakening doesn't arrive with fireworks, it arrives with silence. A silence that exposes everything you used to use as distraction. It shows you the difference between doing something because you love it and doing something because you needed it to avoid yourself. Before the awakening, your hobbies were a form of escape, a way to run from the noise, the pressure, the expectations. But once you start becoming aware, running no longer works. You see too much. You feel too much. You can't unknow what you've realized. And that awareness comes with a strange ache, because suddenly the things that used to comfort you no longer do. They feel empty, thin, like you're trying to return to an old version of yourself, but the door is locked from the inside. You try to force the feeling back. You tell yourself, if I just sit down and start, maybe I'll get inspired again. Deep down you know the truth. You're not bored. You're evolving. Your mind is no longer satisfied with surface-level stimulation. It craves something deeper, something real, something that aligns with who you are becoming, not who you used to be. You spent years chasing passion like it was something outside of you, thinking that if you found the right hobby, the right project, the right obsession, you'd finally feel complete. But awakening flips everything. It shows you that fulfillment never came from the hobby. It came from the version of you who believed that joy could be found outside yourself. And now, that illusion has cracked. Maybe that scares you. Maybe you feel lost, detached, unmotivated. You watch other people dive into their passions with childlike energy, and you wonder, why don't I feel that anymore? But there is a quiet truth most people never discover. When your consciousness outgrows the need to escape, the activities tied to escaping lose their magic. You're not losing passion, you're losing your distractions. There's a huge difference. You're shedding old identities, old desires, old versions of yourself that needed those hobbies to feel safe, important, validated. You no longer need them to prove anything, not to others, not to yourself. And that realization is terrifying because it leaves you in unfamiliar territory, a space where doing is no longer enough. Now only being feels honest. Stillness becomes louder than productivity. Presence becomes more satisfying than achievement. That's the real reason you've lost interest. Your soul has stopped playing a role. There's a deeper calling forming beneath the surface, a new kind of expression, one that isn't fueled by escape or external validation. One that comes from clarity, not chaos. You aren't meant to force your passion to return. You're meant to follow where your awareness is guiding you now. Maybe the reason nothing excites you is because what's meant for you hasn't arrived yet. Hold that thought. You're not behind, you're not broken, you are clearing space. The old passions are fading because they no longer match the frequency of who you are becoming. You are preparing for something more honest, more aligned, more you. When passion returns, and it will feel different. It won't come from a place of fear or escape. It will rise from stillness, from truth. You didn't lose your spark. You outgrew the flames that were too small to contain you. But here's the truth you keep avoiding. When you outgrow who you used to be, there is no going back. Not mentally, not emotionally, not spiritually. Trying to return to your old passions is like trying to squeeze into clothes that no longer fit. They don't feel right because you don't fit into that version of yourself anymore. And the more you try to force it, the more frustrated you become. But that frustration isn't failure. It's a signal. A sign that life is pulling you forward, not backward. Every time you tell yourself, I should care about this, but you feel nothing, that's not apathy. That's honesty. You've stopped lying to yourself. You've stopped pretending that something still matters when, deep down, you know it no longer aligns with your soul. The world romanticizes finding your passion, but nobody talks about what happens when you lose it. Nobody tells you that sometimes. Passion leaves so that purpose can enter. You don't need more hobbies. You need more truth. And truth is uncomfortable. It forces you to face everything you've avoided, the loneliness, the silence, the fear that maybe there is something greater, calling you, something that demands courage instead of comfort. The reason you feel restless is because you're standing in the doorway between two lives. You're shedding the identity built on what you used to want, what you used to chase, what you used to believe would bring you happiness. Awakening asks for surrender. Not effort, not hustle, not productivity. Surrender. That's why the old passions no longer satisfy you. Choose hobbies based on who you thought you were. Now, you're beginning to choose based on who you truly are. This shift is not small, it's seismic. It shakes your identity to the core. It removes the illusion that your worth is tied to how busy or creative or productive you are. Suddenly your soul wants depth, presence, alignment. You're no longer looking for something to entertain your mind. You're searching for something that resonates with your being. But here is the dangerous moment. This in-between, this emotional limbo. This space where the old passions have died, but new ones haven't yet revealed themselves. Most people panic here. They numb the discomfort. They force themselves back into old habits because the uncertainty feels too heavy. They tell themselves, I just need to push harder, not realizing that pushing harder only tightens the chains. Don't go back to what you've outgrown just because the new hasn't arrived yet. This silence, this emptiness, it's not a void. It's preparation. It's clearing space. Imagine trying to build a new foundation on top of the old one. It wouldn't work. Something has to be demolished before something real can take its place. And that demolition always feels like loss. But loss isn't always tragic. Sometimes loss is sacred. Sometimes loss is the proof that you're making room for something greater. You can feel that something shifting inside you. It's subtle, but undeniable. A knowing, a whisper, a quiet inner voice saying, there is more. And that voice won't let you return to what no longer aligns with your evolution. You're not uninterested, you're being redirected. Passion isn't found through force. Passion is revealed through alignment. You don't have to chase the feeling anymore. When you are in alignment, the feeling chases you. The right path will not require you to abandon yourself. It will not require you to fight your own soul. When something is meant for you, it feels like breathing. Natural, effortless, true. So stop treating this moment as a downfall. Treat it as initiation. A transition into a version of yourself that no longer needs to seek meaning externally. You are not losing interest in life. You are losing interest in anything that keeps you from living authentically. The world taught you to chase purpose as if it's something outside of you. But awakening shows you that purpose is not something you find. Purpose is something you remember. Your spirit is stripping away everything that does not belong to your future. Don't fight it. Don't cling to the old out of fear. Let it fall away. Let yourself be empty for a moment. Because the moment you stop trying to resurrect the past, space appears for the future to enter. Curiosity will return. Inspiration will return. Passion will return. But this time, it won't be because you're escaping from life. It will be because you're finally ready to participate in it fully, honestly, wholeheartedly. You are not losing yourself, you are meeting yourself. And this time it's real. You are standing in the doorway of your own transformation. And every part of you knows it. The reason you can't go back to the things that used to excite you is because they were built on who you were, not who you're becoming. The old passions were born from survival, from needing to belong, from trying to feel alive. Now you don't want distraction. You want meaning. And once you taste even a drop of truth, the things that once thrilled you feel shallow. It's not that they lost depth, it's that you gained depth. You feel the tension, the pull, the friction between your old identity and the new one rising inside you. You feel it when you try to force yourself to care. When you open the sketchbook that once felt like a portal and now feels like a burden. When you pick up the guitar and strum the same chords, but the music doesn't move anything inside you anymore. You feel it when you scroll, when you try to imitate passion, when you pretend that your heart still plays by the rules you've already outgrown. You're not unmotivated, you're unaroused by anything that doesn't match your evolution. There is a part of you craving something bigger than repetition, bigger than routines, bigger than the artificial highs that kept you occupied for years. You are craving purpose, you are craving alignment. You are craving a life that reflects your inner world, not one that distracts you from it. And that's why this moment feels overwhelming, because for the first time, your soul is louder than your habits. You can no longer numb your truth with productivity. You can no longer silence your spirit with busyness. The distractions don't work anymore. The temporary highs don't hit anymore. Your old coping mechanisms have expired. You're being pushed to rise. Awakening isn't gentle. Awakening rips away everything fake. You're being forced to sit with yourself, to feel the space between what used to matter and what will matter. And that space is uncomfortable because it exposes everything you've ignored. The silence shows you the truth. And once you see the truth, you can't go back to pretending. But here's the part no one tells you. The emptiness you feel isn't a void. It's a threshold. The space between chapters is still part of the story. That restlessness you're feeling isn't lack of direction. It's your intuition pulling you toward your next evolution. You're not lost, you're being rerouted. You cannot cling to the past and reach for the future at the same time. Let go. The universe doesn't take away what's meant for you. It removes what blocks you from receiving what's next. You're scared because you haven't seen what comes after this. You don't have a blueprint. Don't have confirmation. All you have is a feeling, a knowing. A quiet inner voice whispering, trust this. This is the moment where most people retreat. They run back to the familiar because uncertainty terrifies them. They choose predictability over authenticity. They settle, not because it fulfills them, but because it numbs the discomfort of becoming more. Don't become one of them. Your boredom is a message. Your lack of interest is direction. Your discomfort is the compass pointing you toward a life your old self isn't qualified to live. Something inside you is dying, yes, but something greater is trying to be born. You are shedding the smallness you accepted as identity. You're walking away from what no longer resonates with your soul. That requires courage most people never find. You are not here to repeat who you were. You are here to discover who you are. That fire you're searching for isn't gone. It's waiting. It's waiting for the moment you stop forcing passion and start choosing alignment. It's waiting for the moment you surrender the old narrative and make space for the truth. When you stop trying to revive outdated passions, new passions emerge naturally. When you stop chasing feeling, the feeling comes to you. Your life is not meant to be a museum of who you used to be. Let yourself evolve. Let yourself step into the unknown. The path ahead won't reveal itself until you take the first step. But when you do, everything that left will make sense. Everything that faded will reveal why it had to. And everything you've been searching for will meet you where you are, not where you've been. You haven't lost passion. Passion has been waiting for you to catch up to who you truly are. And here is the realization you've been avoiding. The reason your old passions no longer hold your attention is because you're being called to step into a life where passion isn't used to escape reality, but to shape it. You are no longer someone who needs to disappear into hobbies to feel alive. You are someone who is learning to feel alive simply by being present. The emptiness you feel isn't a lack, it's space. Space for something truer than anything you've ever chased. You've spent years trying to outrun yourself, trying to prove yourself, trying to make your external world fill the void your internal world couldn't. But now the roles have reversed. Your awareness has grown louder than your distractions. Your truth is more powerful than your escape. You are waking up to the fact that passion without purpose is just a temporary high. And temporary highs will never satisfy someone who finally understands what depth feels like. You don't want stimulation anymore. You want alignment. You don't want excitement. You want resonance. You don't want to be entertained. You want to be moved. And that shift is terrifying because it forces you to confront your own power. It forces you to admit that you want more out of life than comfort. You want meaning. You want experience, you want connection, true connection with yourself, with life, with something greater than the routines you've been trapped in. Passion wasn't taken from you. The shallow versions of passion simply can't survive who you're becoming. That quiet voice inside you, the one that whispers when everything else falls silent, it isn't judging you, it's guiding you. It's showing you that you don't have to chase the world anymore. You don't have to beg for inspiration. You don't have to force creativity. When something is right, it flows. When something is aligned, it feels effortless. When something is yours, you don't need to grip it with fear. You're not meant to repeat. You're meant to expand. Most people never reach this point. They feel this restlessness and immediately run from it. They drown it with noise. They numb it with work. They smother it with distractions. They go back to old hobbies and old routines, not because they love them, but because the known feels safer than the unknown. But deep down, you're tired of betraying yourself. You're done shrinking to fit old expectations. You're done performing passion instead of feeling it. You're done pretending that your soul can survive on crumbs. There is a life waiting for you that requires you to stop clinging to the fragments of the past. Let yourself evolve. You are being called to build something from truth, not from habit. You are being called to explore new territory. Not because the old was bad, but because it is complete. When you stop forcing the old flame to burn, the new fire reveals itself. And that fire is not fueled by desperation or emptiness. It's fueled by awareness, by expansion, by authenticity. This journey is not about regaining passion. It's about discovering the version of you who doesn't lose it. Do not underestimate this moment. This is the moment your entire life changes direction. Not with noise, not with explosions, but with a quiet internal click, the realization that nothing outside of you was ever the source of your flame. You were the flame. The hobbies were just mirrors. You haven't lost passion. You've outgrown environments that couldn't hold your depth. What you're feeling is not the end of your passion. It's the beginning of self-realization. The world will tell you to find what excites you. But awakening reveals something deeper. What you're truly searching for is something that reflects you at your highest level of consciousness. Your soul is no longer satisfied with anything less. So don't fear this silence. Don't rush to fill it. Let it reshape you. Let it teach you what matters. Let it lead you toward the life that already exists beyond your comfort zone. The hobbies that return from this point forward won't be escapes. They will be expressions of your evolution. They won't feel like distractions. They will feel like purpose. Passion isn't leaving you, it's transforming into something that finally matches your greatness. There comes a moment when you realize you are no longer looking for a life that impresses others. You are looking for a life that feels like home. And that shift changes everything. It changes how you spend your time. It changes who you allow into your world. It changes what you tolerate from yourself. The loss of interest in your old passions is not random. It is a sign that your inner world is evolving faster than your outer world, and your soul can no longer pretend to be satisfied with what once kept you distracted. You used to chase intensity. Now you crave authenticity. You used to chase stimulation. Now you crave depth. You used to chase noise. Now you crave quiet. The old version of you needed hobbies to feel alive because you hadn't yet discovered your own aliveness. But now that you're awakening, your source of meaning has shifted from outside to inside. That's why the world feels different. That's why the things that once consumed your mind no longer have power over you. The game changed because you changed. You're starting to see that passion isn't something you chase. Passion is something you allow. It flows when you're aligned with your truth. It leaves when you're betraying yourself. That emptiness you feel isn't a punishment. It's the invitation. It's the space being cleared so your real purpose can finally breathe. And yes, it feels uncomfortable. Growth always does. The cocoon is supposed to feel too small before the wings appear. Most people spend their entire lives trying to keep the old version of themselves alive. They cling to routines that drain them. They force themselves to continue hobbies they've outgrown. They keep performing passion because they fear what will happen if they stop. But you are different. You are brave enough to stand in that space between who you were and who you're becoming. You are brave enough to choose truth over tradition, brave enough to choose alignment over approval. Nothing about this moment is accidental. You are being refined. You are being stripped of anything that keeps you from recognizing your own power. When distractions fall away, you are left with yourself. That's the real awakening, not enlightenment, not perfection. Presence, awareness, radical honesty with what your soul wants now. You are not supposed to feel satisfied by what you've outgrown. To expect passion to stay the same while you evolve is like expecting the same key to open every door of your life. It won't. New levels require new expression, new identity, new energy. Let yourself be new. The world conditioned you to believe passion comes from effort. Push harder, try harder, grind harder, but awakening reveals the opposite. Passion comes from alignment, from allowing, from surrendering everything that no longer matches your frequency. When you stop forcing the old, you naturally make space for the new. When you stop trying to revive expired chapters, new chapters start writing themselves. There is something inside you right now that wants to grow, something waiting for your permission to come alive. It's a new dream that scares you. Maybe it's a path that makes no logical sense but feels right. Maybe it's a calling you've been ignoring because it doesn't match who you used to be. But you're not here to be who you used to be. You're here to become who you are. Let that sink in. You don't need to know exactly where this transformation leads. You just need to stop holding on to what's already gone. Let the old passions die with grace. Let the space remain empty without trying to fill it. And trust that when passion returns, it will return with purpose, with maturity, with truth. The next version of your passion won't be something you do to escape yourself. It will be something that expresses yourself. You are not losing your spark. You are becoming the fire. And soon, without forcing anything, without searching or chasing, something will arrive that resonates with the deepest part of you. Something that doesn't ask you to shrink. Something that doesn't drain you. Something that expands you. When that moment arrives, you'll understand why everything had to fall away first. You'll realize that passion didn't abandon you. It was waiting for you to grow into someone who could hold it.